There are winners and losers. The $29.3 billion bare bones budget agreement is carved out largely with Governor Christie's knife. Deep cuts remain, but the blueprint also restores millions for some key programs Democrats wanted. State House correspondent Zachary Fink takes a look at what's in and what's out.
A little more than a week before the deadline for having a balanced budget in place, the governor reached an agreement with the Democratic leadership in the legislature. According to the governor, the budget reflects the total dollar amount he first presented in March, $29.3 billion, and it keeps the biggest cuts more or less the same.
They laid out some priorities that they thought were important to them. They were priorities that did not violate principles that I felt had laid out in the budget, and I told them right from the beginning, we are not expanding the size of the budget beyond what I introduced, and we did not.
Despite protests from Democrats and others, an $820 million reduction in school aid stays in the budget. $848 million in property tax rebates are eliminated, and a $446 million reduction in municipal aid is unchanged.
There are a number of items that were basically worked into the budget that take care of the most vulnerable people in the state of New Jersey. And again, I have to credit Sheila Oliver and the Senate President in working with the governor. He was able to maintain the integrity of the budget that he wanted and also work with them in crafting a budget that took care of their essential needs.
But supporters of the budget deal, even those who sign on reluctantly, say many of the programs to protect the state's most vulnerable were ultimately restored, such as general assistance, which got nearly $22 million, supplemental security income $10 million, personal assistance home care $9.6 million, education services for the blind $20,000, and adult medical daycare $2.4 million.
There's a lot of self-congratulations going on about some of the restorations, but they were very minimal. You're talking about $11 billion cut from a budget, and basically what amounts to $68 million in restorations for social programs.
Well, it's not that they're okay with it. I'm unhappy with it. But we do not have the votes to override the governor's veto, and we don't want to shut down government. So we have to take the lesser of the evils.
Not wasting any time, some Democrats who are unhappy with the budget have already announced plans for legislation to either rearrange how funds are allocated or attempt to pass supplemental appropriations for certain programs. For example, Senator Joe Vitale has vowed to continue expanding family care through additional legislation. Family care is state-assisted health insurance for the working poor. And Senator Loretta Weinberg says she wants to restore $7.5 million in family planning funds.
Without a doubt, we're going to push very hard for a supplemental for family planning, which I can't believe the governor is opposed to. We're not talking about any abortion services. We're talking about family planning.
We're not going to sit here and go through every line item of why I did or didn't compromise on something. I made the compromises that I felt were appropriate, and the ones that I didn't make were ones that I didn't feel appropriate in making. And that's it.
But it's not just Democrats who are unhappy about the budget. If it's going to be passed on time, Christie's going to need every vote he can get within the Republican caucus. But there are at least 2 members of the Assembly, Republicans, who may vote against it. Sources say Republican Assemblywoman Allison Littell McCose will not be voting for this budget. She feels too much money is going to the Abbott school districts and not enough is being distributed to suburban districts where the need is also great. And reached by phone today, Republican Assemblyman Michael Patrick Carroll echoed those sentiments and said unequivocally he will not be supporting this budget.
You cannot be provincial, and you cannot be parochial, and you cannot be selfish. And I think that's really the issue here. We have a budget that we have to put together that serves the entire state of New Jersey, from High Point all the way down to Cape May.
It's unclear at this point where those additional Democratic votes will come from in order to get the budget passed. Some other programs that were thought to be cut will also live another day due to the budget compromise. They include Hagedorn Psychiatric Hospital, which had $6.3 million in state funds restored. New Jersey After 3, the after-school program, gets $3 million. The New Jersey Cultural Trust, $4 million. And the State Commission of Investigation, the legislature's investigative arm, gets $3.5 million. Zachary Fink, NJN News.